If you're new here on the channel, we'd be thrilled to welcome you into our little community. Just hit that subscribe button and switch on the notifications. We promise it'll be worth your time. 6 months back, things got really exciting for us. The hockey club I play for, Longford HC, announced they'd been invited to send a squad to an international amateur tournament in Bangkok the following spring. Naturally, all of us on the first team were hoping to make the cut. But the club committee warned us we'd need to pull together a decent amount of cash during the months ahead to cover the costs. It didn't take long for everyone to get fired up and agree we were all in for the challenge. By the way, I'm Charlie Hunt, 20 years old, and I play left wing forward for the side. They worked out a budget for the 3-week trip, and we all started brainstorming ways to raise the funds. We got lucky when several local businesses stepped up with sponsorships, and one retired entrepreneur from the area donated £10,000. That gave us a strong foundation to build on. The money in the pot kept growing steadily until the committee felt confident enough to officially accept the invitation. Our members doubled down on their efforts after that. One of the most successful fundraisers was the Tarts and Vickers dance we put on instead of our usual Christmas party. We set up a huge marquee right on the hockey pitch, and around 500 people showed up. Just to be clear, there are different ways to run a Tarts and Vickers event. Sometimes the guys dress as clergy while the women go for a provocative street look. But it's way more fun when you flip it. The women dress as priests trying to look sexy, and the men wear skirts and heels as ladies of the night. That's the version we chose for our club night. One lad got plenty of teasing because it looked like he'd messed up the dress code. He arrived in a plain grey suit, black shirt, and clerical collar. But when he turned around, everyone saw the back of his outfit had been completely cut out, revealing a full bra, knickers, suspender belt, and fishnet stockings underneath. No surprise he took home the prize for most imaginative costume. My own look was pretty tame next to that. I went with suspenders and fishnets, a leather miniskirt, a sheer top, black boots, an auburn wig, and some silver jewelry. I thought I pulled it off decently, but there were so many other guys going for a similar vibe that I didn't exactly stand out. Still, I must have done better than a few because I got plenty of compliments from the women, who said I made a surprisingly pretty girl. Exactly what I wanted to hear. Anyway, the Tarts and Vickers ball was a huge hit and pushed us comfortably over our fundraising target. The trip was officially on. The next hurdle was securing a spot on the traveling squad. More club members wanted to join than we had room for, so they held a ballot for the final places. I was lucky. As a regular in the first 11, I got selected up front. Some others weren't so fortunate. Once the tour group was finalized, we trained hard as a unit to make sure we'd field our strongest possible team with solid depth in every position. About a month ago, the big moment finally arrived. 30 of us boarded the plane at Heathrow, buzzing with excitement for what lay ahead. For most of us, it was our first time in Thailand, which made it even more thrilling. After a long, tiring flight, we touched down at Bangkok International Airport and took a bus to our hotel. I wasn't ready for the insane traffic. The queues felt endless as our driver navigated through the city outskirts. Eventually we made it, unpacked, and crashed into bed. Since we'd arrived early evening local time, a solid night's sleep helped us shake off the jet lag and adjust to the new time zone. The following days were filled with trips to the impressive stadium where we'd be competing. It was much larger and grander than any venue back home, and long training sessions on the pitch. Then the tournament kicked off. Even though it was international, it was still for amateur clubs, so there wasn't a grand opening ceremony. The president of the Thailand Hockey Association gave a warm welcome speech before the first game between the Bangkok Warriors and Canada's Toronto Falcons. For the record, the Warriors took the win. Our opening match came the next morning against a French side, and we came out on top. Like most tournaments, the early games were in pools, with the top 2 advancing to the knockout stages. We performed solidly over the next couple of weeks, finishing second in our pool and winning a few knockout matches to reach the quarterfinals. That's where we fell to a strong Chinese team. Obviously we were gutted to go out, but we'd had a solid run, and everyone in our group was grateful for the chance to compete at this level. With our focus entirely on the hockey, we hadn't had much time to explore Bangkok. Now that we were eliminated, our team leaders announced we could ease up on the discipline and enjoy ourselves for the remaining days. We'd already planned to stay for the final before flying home, and the whole squad greeted the news with huge enthusiasm. They took us on a bus tour of the city to get our bearings, and the guide showed us how to use taxis to return to the hotel if we split into small groups. He strongly advised against wandering off alone. Bangkok turned out to be an incredible place, full of culture and energy so different from life back in Longford. It probably wasn't shocking when, On our second free day, my mate Simon suggested a few of us check out the red light district. I'm not saying we go on the pull, he insisted when a couple of the lads hesitated. But you've all heard about Thailand's ladyboys, right? It's crazy how hard it can be to tell. While we're here, we should at least see them for ourselves. A couple of beers later, 6 of us were up for the adventure. We began at a ladyboy club the hotel concierge had recommended. He described it as a safe tourist cabaret with lots of stunning performers. And it was exactly that, a proper theater setup with tables where male waiters in elegant evening gowns served pricey drinks. The show was surprisingly impressive, with fantastic sets, costumes, lip-synced pop hits, big chorus numbers, and a hilarious drag comedian. As we left after the performance, the performers were outside posing for photos with the audience, for a fee, of course, to support their transitions, we were told. All 6 of us chipped in. Since we'd caught a matinee, Simon then suggested we wander the streets near the theater, where he'd heard many ladyboys hung out. It didn't take long before we ran into our first group. Warm smiles and calls of "Hello boys, you want good time?" greeted us as we strolled down the street. "That depends," Simon replied carefully. Then a voice behind me said, "Leave them and come with me." I turned to see a gorgeous dark-haired woman in a blue silk dress. My eyes were instantly drawn to her impressive figure. "Those common ones will go with anyone," she continued. "They are just after quick money for fast fun. I know a lot of Western guys are curious about us Thai ladyboys and prefer to talk first. My name's Susie. Buy me a drink and I'll tell you about me and my friends." How are we supposed to know who was being honest? I wasn't interested in anything physical with a trans woman, but I was genuinely curious to learn more. I glanced at Simon. He nodded. "All right, Susie. We'll come with you, but no funny stuff or we're gone." She agreed and led us to a nearby bar, where 3 of her friends joined us, Candy, Miley, and Sheila. "Me called you Sheila because I like Australian boys," she giggled. We settled at a table, and the waiter brought beers for us and a bottle of champagne for the girls. We knew this night wasn't going to be cheap. Susie kicked things off. "So, boys, did you come to Thailand just to meet ladyboys?" We all jumped in at once, strongly denying it. Simon clarified, "Not at all, we're here for a sports tour. But we couldn't visit Bangkok without checking out the famous ladyboys we've heard so much about. I have to say, you're all stunning. It's hard to believe you weren't born female." The 4 girls beamed at the compliment. Trevor asked hesitantly, "Is it difficult to transform yourself so completely?" Susie laughed. "Of course, all girls, no matter what they were born as, work hard to look their best. We Thai ladyboys often start with an advantage because we're usually petite and slim. But plenty of Western guys come here for surgery and end up looking very convincing." The conversation flowed easily as we all joined in and the girls relaxed. We discovered that being transgender is widely accepted in Thailand, and many trans women have normal careers outside entertainment and sex work. Susie said proudly, "Once I've saved enough for my surgery, I want to go back to school and train as a dental nurse." Simon asked about Westerners. "It's possible for them too," Susie explained, "especially if they're not too tall or broad. With the right help, it's quite doable. We could even give one of you a makeover." We all laughed nervously and pulled back, but Susie pressed on with a bet. "We'll transform one of you into a convincing ladyboy. If we succeed, you each pay us $100. If we fail, dinner's on us. Deal?" The rest of us were stunned, but Simon jumped in first. "If we're doing this, Charlie's the one you'd have to work on. He's the smallest by far." The other 4 breathed a sigh of relief while I protested. Susie insisted she could make it work on most people. Simon reminded everyone how realistic I'd looked at the tarts and Vickers party, which shut me up because it was true. Most of the other guys had barely tried, they just threw on skirts and bad wigs. I kept objecting, but it was pointless. The others loved the idea now that they were off the hook. Despite my complaints, Susie and her friends pulled me out of my seat. "We start now," she giggled. "You boys come back in 2 hours to meet your new girlfriend. If we've done well, bring the $100 each." Simon laughed and told me, "Have fun, sweetie," as they walked off. "Come on, Charlie, we've got work to do," Susie said firmly, leading me down the street with the others giggling behind us. They marched me into a rundown old house. "Miley and I live here," Susie announced as we headed upstairs to a bedroom full of women's clothes. "Take your clothes off so we can see what we're working with," Susie instructed. I was hesitant to strip in front of them, but Sheila pointed out there was no need to be shy since we all had the same equipment. Realizing there was no escape, I resigned myself and started undressing. When I hesitated at my underwear, Miley simply pulled them down. I covered up instinctively, sparking more laughter, then shrugged and went with it. Susie studied me. "You're short and slim, that's perfect. And not much body hair." She handed me depilatory cream. I applied it everywhere, and she helped with the tricky spots. After a few minutes of itching, they shoved me into a cold shower, and I watched my hair wash away. They patted me dry with a big towel and rubbed on a floral moisturizer that smelled wonderful. Miley gave me a pair of high-waisted white knickers with padding for the hips and butt. "Tuck yourself back," she said. "These should hold everything comfortably." Next came a bra, fastened by Sheila, while Susie found silicone breast forms. Once they were in place and my chest was adjusted, I had a surprisingly realistic cleavage. Looking in the mirror, I was stunned by how feminine I looked from the neck down. Susie sat me at the dressing table. "Now for makeup." She dealt with my bushy brows by flattening them with wax and covering them, then hid any shadow with cream and applied foundation. She drew new arched eyebrows, added blue-gray eyeshadow, false lashes, mascara, and eyeliner for an exotic look. Blusher and deep pink lipstick followed. Miley brought out a gorgeous auburn wig with soft curls that reached my shoulders. I found myself actually enjoying the pampering, despite my initial reluctance. While Susie worked on my face, Candy painted my nails pink. Then it was time for the outfit. Sheila helped me into neutral tights, explaining they weren't usual for daytime in the heat, but they'd make my legs look better. Miley held out a brown voile dress with a swirly white pattern, and they zipped me in. Susie added black 3-inch heels, which felt manageable thanks to my previous experience. She finished with a simple choker, hoop earrings, and a black lace shrug to soften my shoulders. "Gorgeous," Susie declared as the others clapped. "What do you think, Cheryl?" I looked around, confused, until Susie laughed. "That's you now, we can't call you Charlie looking like this." I turned to the mirror and my jaw dropped. A pretty girl smiled back. I raised a hand to my mouth, and the reflection copied me perfectly. "What have you done?" I gasped. "We've made you a proper Thai ladyboy," Susie laughed. "Do you like her?" I admitted shyly that I did. The girls squealed with delight and hugged me. They sprayed me with perfume as I admired the handkerchief-style dress that twirled beautifully when I moved. My hair brushed softly against my skin. I thanked them with tears in my eyes, and we all ended up giggling. "Well, 2 hours are up," Susie announced. "Time for the judgment." I immediately offered my $100, saying they'd clearly won. But Susie refused. "You're one of us now, you should share in the winnings." Feeling exposed but excited, I let them escort me back to the bar. Other ladyboys smiled approvingly as we walked. By the time we arrived, I was strutting confidently. "That's it, wiggle that ass, girlfriend," Miley teased. Susie went in first to prepare the guys. I waited nervously with the others until she called, "Okay, Cheryl, come meet your new admirers." I walked in as femininely as I could. There was a collective gasp. "Bloody hell, Charlie, what have they done to you?" Trevor exclaimed. "Hello, boys," I said in my best girly voice. "Who's buying a girl a drink?" After a stunned pause, Simon handed over his money. "You win, Susie." I wouldn't have recognized him. Sorry, in the street. The others paid up with compliments. Susie declared drinks on them, using our money, of course. We sat together, me counted among the girls, sipping sparkling wine. The mood turned lively. Trevor asked what it felt like being transformed. I admitted it was strange at first but now felt surprisingly natural. Simon said I looked very pretty and squeezed my knee under the table. I quickly removed his hand. He teased that I made a better woman than a weedy man. I protested, but he pointed out how well women's hockey teams perform internationally. I realized I'd walked into his trap and confessed that Susie had awakened something in me I didn't know was there. Susie clapped excitedly, saying she'd known I had a ladyboy heart from the start. I tried to contain the damage by asking the lads to keep it as a what happens on tour stays on tour story. Simon just grinned and said he'd already posted photos. The damage was done, but deep down, part of me didn't mind. When Simon suggested heading back to the hotel, I said I needed to change first, but he revealed he'd already shown the photos to some teammates who were eager to see me. Susie and the girls decided to come along to watch the reactions. As we approached the hotel, most of the squad was waiting. Wolf whistles rang out, but they faded as people realized how convincing I looked. Our coach said awkwardly, "Well, Charlie, sounds like you had quite an afternoon." I played into it. It was dreamy. You can't imagine how wonderful it feels to be pampered by 4 beautiful women. Susie and the others beamed. We ended up in the bar with the team, and I was quickly accepted as one of the girls. After a fun couple of hours, Susie said they had to start their evening work. We exchanged contacts, and they insisted I keep the clothes as the start of Cheryl's wardrobe. I managed to slip away, change back in my room, and hide everything in my suitcase before rejoining the team as Charlie for our final meal. No one brought it up again, though Simon kept giving me odd looks. The next day we watched the final. An Indian team thoroughly deserved the trophy, then grabbed our bags and headed to the airport. On the flight home, as I tried to sleep, I reflected on everything. I'll never forget that trip to Thailand or how my friends transformed me. They'd awakened something deep inside that I never knew existed. I didn't know exactly how I'd handle it back home, but Cheryl was here to stay. A warm, satisfied feeling washed over me thinking about that first outfit tucked in my suitcase, the first of many, I hoped happily as I drifted off.